Welcome to Counterculture Wise, a Stormcap production. The views expressed on this podcast are those of the hosts, our guests, and the dog, and do not necessarily reflect the views of any of our platforms, our advertisers, or any other dog.
As you listen today, please remember, we are so much more than a podcast. All of our stories we discuss are linked in our show notes on counterculturewise.com. Visit there for commentary, guest photos and links, animations, and fun merchandise.
If you have a story idea or would like to be a guest on our show, contact us via our website. You can also follow us on Twitter, Gab, Instagram, Facebook, and all over social media, where we'll post memes, cat pics, and commentary that gets us booted off on a regular basis.
If you're listening live, be sure to join our chat on Spreaker. If you're listening dead, please stop voting Democrat, but enjoy the show anyway. Welcome to a not so very live podcast because apparently our interwebs still don't work, but we're going to give this a shot and upload it anyway.
Because we're rebels.
Like that, yeah. We meant to go live just before New Year's. We were all hopped up on champagne and ready to crack the expensive bottle live for you guys, and no, sir, that did not work. So hopefully we'll make our triumphant return sooner rather than later, but here we are anyway for your listening pleasure. I am your hostess with the mostest, Ms. Melanie Hope, and sitting across from me is my dog, and also my co-host, my very best friend, happens to also be my husband and my sweet baboo, Mr. James Mones.
Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. Happy
New
2024.
Year. We went to bed at 9 o'clock.
Because it was like, blank this, we're blanking, going to blanking bed,
blank.
blankety blank, blankety blank.
Blank.
I slept well. Because I was already exhausted before we even started recording or trying to do the show last night. So,
well, let's fill in our adoring fans with why we've been offline for so long. Hopefully, y'all found the Max von Riegel Beezer Christmas extravaganza that we posted, and really wanted to go live, but we just don't have the interwebs. But we do have a home, which I was pretty glad we were no longer in the Motel 6 trying to do things.
Yeah.
So, long story short.
It's actually, I don't know if we can make this short.
Short story long? Okay.
Yeah,
long story, we'll
it's just a long story.
Yeah.
It's okay. We'll keep it entertaining, folks, I promise.
The former headquarters out on the ranch, our landlord felt that it was easier to get rid of tenants who paid early and took care of the premises rather than fix a toilet, and booted us out with absolutely no...
And I'm going to make it really clear, he doesn't like my wife.
And for no reason.
There's no good reason for it. He just doesn't like her, and that was...
And I've maybe spoken 3 words to him, but he definitely has a problem with women. And I don't usually cry that kind of thing very often because
it's overdone.
But to the point where he's so vindictive that he rips out our bathroom and sends us to a hotel for 2 days because we didn't even have a toilet. And then literally that same day sends us we're not renewing your lease, get out. And
we were on a month-to-month there. And we did a sketch about that because every painful experience turns into a sketch for us at some point. This move will definitely turn into a few sketches.
Oh, my God. In fact, now that we've gone through all the gamut of Slumlord University, maybe we should talk about hell-raising movers.
Yeah.
Anyways, we ended up not able to find a place in time because this housing market sucks donkey water. And... moving everything
it's a scientific term.
It is, yes. Moved everything we owned into a storage unit, which involved...
Go ahead, tell them.
Well, you saw the thumbnail. We'll just say... Yeah. Certain company really screwing up every single thing they possibly could and making our life a nightmare. So it all starts with their god-awful app that they absolutely want you to use. If you try to call them or go in, they just send you back to the app, and the app doesn't work, and it's stupid and dumb, and I hate it. And setting up, paying folks to help us move, because I'm a little old lady who, thanks to the same slumlord who wouldn't fix the floors, ended up falling and fracturing a vertebrae in my lower back, and that left me pretty much incapacitated for the entire month that we were supposed to be packing to move. And
so we fell behind, basically.
a little bit, yeah. And when it came down to the wire, we actually had pretty much signed the papers and gotten everything ready to move into a place in a city that we did not want to move back to, but the house was nice, had everything we were looking for. Yeah,
and it would have been fine. It would have been great.
At 12:56 p.m. on Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, they call Jim, who was not the point of contact because he works full-time during the day and can't answer his phone, and leave a voicemail message saying, "Oh, we need to talk to you about something on the lease. Give us a call. We close at 1 o'clock."
So I had
and
6
be
minutes.
open on Monday.
So that whole weekend...
actually Tuesday.
Yeah. So that entire weekend, we sat there scratching our bums.
Are we moving? Are we not? What do we do? Do we come up with a plan B? I mean, we had no idea what to do. And it's not like we could go find another place because nothing was open. It was Thanksgiving. And it's not like we could make other plans because we didn't know what was happening.
And we knew we had this place.
Yeah.
Our realtor knew we had this place.
Oh, my God.
Everybody knew we had
the hoops
this
we
place.
had to jump through. It was insane, the hoops we had to jump through. And the number one hoop that they really had a problem with, because I have a service dog and she is a registered service dog, they really had a problem with that. And the reason is because they get $800 pet deposits plus a $25 per pet rent. And when they realized that they couldn't charge me any of that, all of a sudden I needed to find paperwork and get doctor signatures and do all this stuff. And I did all the hoops. And when they realized, when they realized they couldn't shut us down because of that, they came back on, well, it was Tuesday because nobody answered on Monday. They came back on Tuesday and said, based on something we saw in his credit, we're going to ask for a $5,000 deposit on top of first and last and all the other fees.
I honestly wish I'd had the money to just slap it in front of him and then say, no, thank you, and then retract it and walk out.
Yeah. Like cash money, all Benjamins, and then say, we really don't need another set of absolute jerkweeds as landlords, so thanks. So yeah, that left us scrambling for the next 5 days and trying to get everything out in time and, of course, clean the joint and all that stuff because we always leave places nicer than we find them.
And with this place, it wasn't hard. It was not hard at all.
And ended up in a Motel 6 with a dog and 2 cats and doing the podcast from a Motel 6 Wi-Fi. We have done it. But we decided, well, okay, it's getting into December, so we'll just take the last week off of November thinking, we'll definitely have a place. And we didn't, and we didn't, and we didn't. And we're on to the second week of Motel 6ing and Jim scrambling to work his job, which, luckily we had Wi-Fi that worked pretty well, actually.
Worked well enough for me to do the job.
Yeah, and I still tutored my kids and we did all the things we had to do. And then during one of my daily outings, I ran across a house that we really, honest to God, thought was a gift from God. Because every time, there's this weird thing in Texas where they want you to pay deposits and apply before they'll even tell you if somebody else has applied ahead of you. So,
sometimes even before you get a chance to glance at the house.
Yeah, to even look at it. And they charge you anywhere from $35 to $75 per person. Hey, we have an audience outside of our window. We have a neighborhood cat looking at us. That's cute. Per person. So we are married. And yet they run separate credit checks on us and charge us for each one of those. And the fun thing about that is if you start out with good credit, but you have to apply for 5 or 6 places, now you're out $400 or $500.
Now you're where I am.
Yeah,
We'll leave it
you're
at
out
that.
$400 or $500, and his credit score went down 40 points. I mean, insane. And mine was so bad to begin with. Who cares? But yeah, so we had that to deal with. Anyways, we knew often that there was somebody ahead of us, and even though we really needed a place to move into, and we were trying to stay in the Waco area, we also knew that other people were kind of in the same boat we were, so we didn't wish ill on anyone. And one of the things we always pray is for the most benevolent outcome. That's always been one of our prayers when one of us goes on a job interview, or we find out, somebody's facing a hardship, or we're facing a hardship. Anything along those lines, we always pray for the most benevolent outcome. So when I found our house, and I'm not going to share too much because I don't want to completely dox ourselves, nowhere near Waco, not even close, and found out that it was on Benevolence, and I'm not going to say, street, park, whatever. I really, honest to goodness, thought that this was God smacking me upside the head with a 2x4. So the first thing I did was contact our internet carrier and say, hey, internet carrier, that pretty much is the only game in town.
We're not allowed to say what it is, but it rhymes with plectrum.
I was going to say rectum, but
yeah, well.
Rectum. Because that's where they can stick it. Anyway. Most benevolent. They were like, yeah, we service the area, no problem. Sure. Yeah, hop, skip, and a jump set us up. All right, so we signed the lease. Well, actually, there was no lease to sign because, sadly, this is also month to month, which should have been a warning. The minute she said, oh, we don't do leases, I should have said,
I don't feel that way.
I do, but we'll see. We'll see, because it really bit us in the boo-boo. Anyways, the house is perfect. It's out in the woods. It's nice and big. We each have our own office. Our master bedroom's actually big enough to master in. Supposedly 2 bathrooms, but one of them is out of commission right now. And on 5 acres. And we're not that far out of a major city. There are lots of other houses out here. There's even a few businesses out here. And thought, okay, groovy, grand, we're willing to make the extra drive because it is absolutely beautiful out here. It's nice and quiet. And as long as the internet works, both of us have jobs and we can do our podcast and everything's groovy and grandulous. But then began the move from hell. So after Screw All did all the screwing that it could do, which actually left us in a lurch because not only did they charge us for a bunch of stuff that we didn't order, much less get, they locked us out of the truck for the first 4 hours that we were supposed to have it, and nobody would help us in person. We had to go through their stupid app, which just puts you on hold forever.
Do not use their app. Call them and ignore their app thing. It's horrible.
Yeah, on the off chance that somebody actually answers and stays answered and doesn't hang up on you, and then they never call you back. Finally got into the truck, only to find that the appliance dolly that we desperately needed because we had refrigerators and stoves and beds and things to move, not on board. But we did get charged for all 3 dollies that they supply, even though none of them were there. And we also got charged for 2 packs of moving blankets, none of which were on board. And I had to go back on the app. I sent Jim back to the house to, start staging things and getting ready because we had hired a couple of guys to help us, lift the big things because Jim's a broken down old vet and I have a fractured spine. So get back to the house. I let him take the Kia, and I'm in the truck just trying to get things moving. Ended up having to go to a completely different dealer in order just to get the dolly that we needed. And we, like I said, we had rounded up a crew that was supposed to start at 6, so that we were hoping we could get everything done in one day and then have the whole next 2 days to clean and take care of everything. Instead, what happened is it took until around 9 before we could finally get the dolly and then, drive all the way out to Heckengon back up to the ranch. And by then it had started raining and our crew had better things to do. So we had just one little Mexican friend, didn't speak a lick of English, but he was helping us, God bless him, but just didn't have enough time to get everything on the truck, because we thought, okay, we'll just get the big things and then we can, do boxes and whatnot later. So we got as much on the truck as we could, and we had rented a storage unit with the same company and got down to the storage unit and can't get in. It turns out I didn't notice because they had stapled their card on top of all the address information, but they had given me a completely different person's contract. Totally different contract.
The only thing they had in common was the pronunciation of their first name.
Yeah, totally phonetic pronunciation, but completely different names, different addresses, zip codes, phones, not even the same area codes. I mean, nothing in common. And thank goodness she was a kind person. Praise God, because she had all of our information: name, address, phone number, unit number, gate code, everything. She could have ruined us. And so here we are with a full truck and a guy to help us unpack it, and it's absolutely dumping rain, of course it is, and can't get it in the storage unit, and the place closes, 5 or something? Anyways, they were already closed, so what do? You go back to the app, and they can't figure anything out, and they don't know what they're doing, and on and on and on. So the only thing we could do is park the truck with all of our stuff on it, lock it up, and pray for the best. So that's day number 1 with the truck.
Yay!
Day number 2.
The worst is yet to come.
Day number 2, we didn't have a crew, and our friend couldn't help us because he had to work. So we're at the Motel 6 wondering, okay, what are we going to do? And the guy that works there says, oh, my son could use a day job. I mean, you kick him $50, he'll probably help you unload. Because all we needed to do at that point was unload the truck into a storage shed. So all one level, easy peasy, no packing, no nothing, just let's unload the heavy stuff. And all we needed was the heavy stuff that Jim couldn't move alone. We don't worry about the little boxes and all that stuff. We can do that later. So I go pick up this guy, and well, I'll let Jim tell this part of the story because he left me in a truck with this maniac.
Okay, there was a guy who worked at the Motel 6, a maintenance dude, and he said, oh, my son could use some extra money. And we hired him. He seemed like a nice enough fella, but as the night wore on, Melanie went off to get some things, and as we waited, it became apparent to me that this guy had some issues because he was getting increasingly agitated and ticked off. And turns out that he is a, recovering drug addict. I don't know how well he's recovering, but he's an ex-felon. And
he wasn't recovering. In fact, when we were driving the truck to the storage unit, and for some reason he was in the cab with me instead of in the car with Jim.
I should have had him.
We're never going to do that again.
No, that was my huge mistake. But
and he saw me yawn. He's like, "Oh, are you tired? Because I got something that can help you." And he tried to hand me a crack pipe. And when I said, "Oh, I don't do that," he goes, "Oh, what are you talking about? It's just water." Yeah, we smoke water. That's what we do now. And
smoke on the water.
About that time, Jim had tried to get into the storage unit. Now, we had spent the reason why we got such a late start is because the other Melanie and I had to go to the office in person and try to get them to untangle us. She hadn't even rented a unit, but I had paid for a unit that wasn't ours. She had all of our information on her contract, and it took them hours to untangle that. So the guys were still at the house just trying to get everything on the truck.
Right.
And he was losing his mind, apparently. So I finally get that all straightened out. We get the pass key and everything to our actual unit. I go and make sure everything opens and all of that. And then Jim drove the Kia, and I drove the truck because I'm not afraid of big, scary, nasty trucks with really bad steering. And I'm a better backer.
Yeah. So anyway, I get to the U-Haul place, and
he did not get the message that you have to disarm,
the
unit before you can open the door.
And she's going to let me tell the story. So
you forget parts.
I do forget parts. And there's a lot of this I'm going to try my darndest to forget for the next 10 years.
Oh yes.
But I walk in because I didn't disarm it. The alarm went off and would not stop screaming for a good 10 minutes. So I call my wife. And
the alarm's going off in the background. I'm trying to drive, so I have it on speakerphone.
Right. So I joke, well, I'll be here unless the cops come get me.
And he literally
the passenger
freaks out and jumps out of the moving vehicle into the middle of the road.
And it's like, and they're yelling at me. I said, just give him $40 and send him away. So
he didn't even do the job, and
he helped load. Okay, he did half the job.
He did half the job. Anyways, so I gave him all the money I had because I was going to go I was actually going to pay him double what we offered and buy him dinner. Mm-hmm. And no, he freaked out. He started calling me a bunch of names, telling me I'm playing games and this and that, and tells me he's still got a warrant out for his arrest. I'm like, oh boy, am I glad I'm in the truck with you right now.
So he ran off, and I'm glad he did.
Yeah, so this is day 2 with the truck, and now we can get into the storage shed, but we can't get our stuff off the truck.
So the next day, a friend of ours. Actually, the other Melanie helped us. And
can you believe that? This poor woman ends up getting our information swapped, and God bless her beautiful soul, actually comes and helps us move.
Very, very soon. We're going to have her over to
She's just such a neat lady.
And her daughter's a sweetheart.
So I think that was one of those God things where it's like, the worst case scenario, actually worse than you can even imagine happened, and yet we got a friend out of it. Yeah. And
we also had a friend of a friend who helped us move.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other...
Yeah.
She helped us pack. And folks, never let a friend help you pack. Don't do it. No matter how tempted you are to accept their help, don't do it.
One of them was a hardcore packer, and the other was an not expert loader, but a hardcore loader. So the packer packed everything. We had things. I had things set aside to not get boxed up.
Yeah, we had
I had a separate section
pile
of our bedroom that I had set aside specifically.
And put in the closet, and the bedroom was completely done. Like everything was out of the bedroom. The was already cleaned and vacuumed and everything. So it's like, okay, this room is closed, off limits, and we put the stuff that we were taking to the motel with us in the closet.
Right. It all went into the boxes.
It all went into the boxes onto the truck. And thank God I had already taken our studio and everything.
This includes dirty dishes.
Dirty dishes.
Stuff that had nothing to do with anything else.
Literal bags of garbage. There were 3 empty boxes.
So the whole schmear, and this guy, God love him, I think he's a real sweet guy, but he was just hardcore loading. He wasn't paying any attention to the word fragile on the boxes. No excuse. The difference between Spanish fragile and English fragile is an E.
We're talking upside down, sideways, backwards, and then at the end he was just kind of smooshing stuff over the top of the boxes.
Of course, I'm not one to judge, as we will soon find out.
Well, I wasn't going to tell that story, so I'll leave that up to you. All I know is a lot got broken. A lot got broken. So we probably lost a good, I'd say, $1,000 worth of stuff just moving it from... there to the storage shed.
And then
And Jim said, you know what? $1,000 give or take, that's not enough. I'm sure I could do better.
So I did, ladies and gentlemen. We rented another truck after we
found a place. We got everything into the storage shed.
Okay.
We hole up in a Motel 6 for, as long as it takes. We find this place, and get our friend going again while I go... Well, basically, I'm useless. So while they're loading the truck, I had to be up here between 8 and noon for the internet installer who comes out, looks around, and says, no, we don't service the area.
This was the beginning of bad things.
And it went downhill from there.
Well, in the meantime.
So keep in mind, I'm at home knowing that Jim has to work the next day, frantically trying to find internet. So this is my day, and I'm sure your day was going swell.
Yeah, so I worked, and then I loaded up a truck. Now, the lock on the back of this truck was annoying me, and this was after it had gotten blocked.
So they've already done a load. They got all the big things, all the big freezer, stuff, the refrigerator, the stove,
I was
the
flying
bed.
solo. I was flying solo at this point.
And he, for some reason, got a bug up his butt and thought, you know what? We can clear out this storage unit today. Now, we had the whole thing for a whole month.
Yeah,
so
I
we
know.
Could have taken...
I just didn't want to make a bunch of individual trips in our little car. And so I just thought, well, there's some things that wouldn't fit very comfortably in the car. I'll just get them. And I was like, well, there's still room in the truck. Why don't I just do this? Now, I was, with all this stuff going on, exhausted beyond belief.
And it was raining.
And it was raining, and I was out of my mind.
So you got to get this, right? So moving out of the house, absolutely pissing rain the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful and sunny the whole time we're looking for a place. Day we're moving from the shed to the house, poured rain the entire day.
Yeah.
Couldn't time it any better if you tried.
It wasn't that bad where I was, fortunately. So I load everything up. Now the lock on the back of the truck, which is chained onto the truck so you can't just walk away with it, was extremely hard to open and close. I thought, I don't need to necessarily use the lock, so I'm not going to do that. The following thought should have occurred to me. Mr. Monis, would it not be a good idea to latch the stupid thing? So I load everything up, I close the back, I don't latch it. Folks, I lost another several hundred worth of product on the highway, on the streets.
Like our air conditioning unit and our water cooler.
Yeah, those are the main things and a few other minor stuff. Yeah, but it was a disaster from moment one, and
because you were on a major freeway, you could have killed somebody. Imagine a window AC unit bouncing down the freeway at you.
Yeah.
In the dark, in the rain.
Yeah.
I actually was checking the news every day in that area to make sure there were no major.
I didn't dare check that. You got bigger oranges than I do. I tell you that for sure. Yeesh.
No, I was terrified.
It was. I was.
And the fact that the truck was big, and actually we got the smaller truck.
The smaller truck I can drive. That I had no problem with.
But it wasn't so noisy that you couldn't have heard. Oh, I don't know, an air conditioning unit bouncing along behind you, or.
I was concentrating on what was ahead of me, not what was behind me. The lesson to be learned is. Try not to. First of all,
that was up to you.
Try not. No, I volunteer it because I don't want to sound judgmental against our associates who helped us. They all have their issues, but I've got issues too. We're all God's creation, whether we're God's children or not. I'm saving that for a ministry for another time. But the bottom line is try not to get evicted, and for God's sake, if you do move,
we didn't do anything. We paid rent.
I know.
Usually on the 15th for the following month.
If you find yourself in a situation where you must move, for crying out loud, just get professionals. Even though our move, I did get a quote, and it was in the thousands, and we just we hadn't had time to save up and plan. Right, and the move of all of our stuff from Las Vegas to Texas was a disaster also, and that was done by professionals.
That got a lot of money out of us.
And it was way too much money, and stuff arrived even more damaged than this move did.
Well, I don't know. The door was still on my China hutch.
Okay, that one was not one I was going to talk about, but yeah, we accidentally broke.
He goes, the door came off. So I'm thinking, we'll just put it back on the hinges. No. It is snapped in half, not on the hinges, in the middle of the door. This is an antique solid wood, or was an antique solid wood China hutch. It's going to be
solid wood and glue, okay? It's just stuff.
And stuff. I mean, there were a few things that were, family heirlooms and things that we actually kind of needed, and. Yeah. Anyway, so as we're unpacking, we've got the house mostly unpacked. We've just got some odds and ends, and we're trying to set up the kitchen and everything. And I'm still frantically trying to get internet. So first, they say, there's nobody out here who does landlines or wires or anything. There's just nobody out there. I'm like, how did I manage to find in 2023
the one house in Texas,
the one house in all of Texas that has no internet? And also apparently, because we were still with Rectum for our cell phone as well, no service on that end either. So we couldn't even call each other. I mean, it just like literally no bars, no service. So the next thing we try is Dish. Now I can see a big old honking tower, like in our backyard. You go about a mile, whatever direction that is. And there's a big old honking tower with lots of lights and satellites and all kinds of fun things on it. And there's one of our neighbors somewhere has DirecTV because we get their signal loud and clear, and probably should find out what their login is. I mean, 25 bars, up and running and everything. So they say, yeah, that you're going to have to go with one of those Dish networks. So I call the first company, and they come out and spend a good solid hour and a half bouncing around on the roof. And finally he comes down and goes, yeah, I can't get a signal. I can't even connect you. And he says there's a 20-foot pole up there. So find out who installed that, because that's probably your best bet. So I call those guys, and he comes out and spends a good 2 hours stomping around. Now, we're still renting the motel room so that Jim can work while we're trying to get this. So all of our stuff is here, but we're not here because we don't have internet. And
might be going back.
Turns out that we are so far out in the sticks that our power is part of a what is that called? Not a
collective.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Still haven't figured out what we're supposed to do with our garbage. And so I'm trying to, figure out all this stuff because nothing is like normal here. And so we didn't have power for the first 3 days either. So we're still stuck in a motel. But at least, our stuff is here and we're out of the storage unit, and at least we have that going for us. And so the guy comes out and he stomps around up on the roof for a while, and he comes down, he goes, yeah, I've tried everything I can possibly try. I just can't see any of our towers. You'd probably have to build a 40-foot tower in order for us to get a clear, I guess they have to get line of sight.
Right.
Okay, we're renters. We ain't building no 40-foot tower in our backyard.
We could ask our landlords to do it. I'll bet they'd say yes, except not.
Except not so much. Yeah, so the only other choice you have is satellite. And since we don't have $750 to slam down on a decent satellite service, Musk, give me a call. I'm telling you.
Elon, we love you, babe.
Love you, babe. Which I would love to do. First we tried, let's just say
it's named after an eccentric billionaire who died.
And guy was really super nice, and he was able to get us a signal and everything, but it was like AOL dial-up speed, and we couldn't even get a strong enough signal to actually get out of the house, so that didn't work. So then we went with the biggest, baddest, most expensive, promised us the fastest 100 download speed, this and that, no buoyant data, and all this fastest blazing, oh boy, with a latency of 7 to 800, which means a 3 to 4 second delay on everything.
And
not to mention
that means I can't do my job properly.
Which means he can't do his job. So he's trying desperately for the last 2 weeks to do his job, and they can't hear him, and calls are being disconnected and everything else. So I'm still frantically trying to figure something out. So I contact other people I know who live in the sticks, and one of them suggested, we have a certain letter of the alphabet mobile that they have really good hotspots. So if you can find out if they have service in that area, the hotspot is what we use all the time. So I call them. Nope, no service. I go down the line, finally get down to the last one on the horizon.
The one that used to be GTE and Northwest Bell or Northeast Bell.
And they're like, yeah, we service the area. We don't have 5G, but 4G will be plenty fast enough. We'll get you, get your lines ported and do the whole thing. We're going to set you up with, for some reason, 3 lines, which we don't need. We only needed the 2. And of course,
so Max has a phone now.
Yeah, Max has his own phone now.
Thank you, dear father. You might not be able to keep it, Max.
We'll see.
Yeah.
And we get 100 gig hotspot each, and we're thinking, all right, this should be great. They have the service. They say it's a strong signal. They looked at the map. They triple checked everything. They gave us the phones, everything, all wired in. We're good to go. We can discontinue the satellite because we only had it for a couple of days and it just wasn't working for us. And I come home with all the gear and everything, turn them on, and 0 bars, nada, nothing, diddly. So I immediately call back. At this point, I'm in tears because that was the last Hail Mary. Mm-hmm. That was the absolute last Hail Mary. And they're like, oh my gosh, I feel so terrible, and this and that. So he pulls a bunch of strings and gets us what he says is a signal booster, okay? And the way he explained it to me is that it's like an antenna that you attach to like a window or something, and you power this puppy up, and it should boost what signal it can find so that your phones will have more bars, and that way you'll be able to use the hotspot. And it was supposed to be, this was on Friday, it was supposed to be overnighted on Saturday.
To be overnighted on Friday to arrive on Saturday.
Right. So we go down to our mailbox, which is a nice drive, and it's getting close to closing time and didn't arrive. So I go back to their god-awful app, and it hasn't even been processed yet. So we're approaching a holiday, and Jim has to be back at work on Tuesday, and we don't know what we're going to do because we ain't got the gear we need. So I'm wheeling and dealing as best as I can, and they finally, on the phone line, their customer service there, which does not get a very good ratings, by the way, what she had to do was actually just cancel the order, and the store actually had 2 in stock, but they weren't allowed to let us have them for whatever reason, and they wanted us to repurchase it with cash. Well, we're tapped. We have maxed our credit cards, drained our savings.
This has cost us thousands.
Like every single dime we have. I mean, we are literally single digits in our bank accounts, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's only $300." We're like, we can't even afford ramen right now. Okay. You're lucky I'm a trad wife and I have a bunch of broth in the freezer, because we literally, it was that bad. So after paying all the movers and the trucks and the things, and we're still being chased by one of them, one of the truck, have to work that out because it was all them. They screwed everything up, and they're still trying to charge us for storage units that weren't even ours, for dollies we didn't even have, for blankets that they never supplied, and for a truck that we couldn't get into for 4 hours. And it's like, no. So anyways, I'm fighting that one. So she wheels and deals and does what she can, and actually gets the store, gets the powers that be to clear the one at the store so I can go down and pick it up on Tuesday. So here's Jim still trying to do his job, and people can't hear him, and there's a huge lag, and he's the weird thing is we can hear them fine.
Yeah.
But everybody says they can't hear us at all. Anyways, I'm thinking, okay, this is our saving grace. This is going to fix everything. Thank goodness, because they understood we do not have internet. Okay, so giving us something that is going to attach to the internet is giving us something that is completely useless. What we need is for you to supply the hotspot so that we have internet. And I get home, take it out of the box, and the first instruction, plug it into your router.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. So I call back the very same person who got this for us and promised us up, down, sideways, and backwards that this would work for us, knowing full well exactly what we needed it for. And he says, oh, yeah, that's the same thing. Because I said, you gave us the wrong thing. You gave us a extender rather than a booster.
I don't know. Oh, no. I don't think they are the same thing.
No, I don't think they are either. But that's what we have. We have an extender. So if we plug in to the god-awful satellite service, we can get more bars of the god-awful service. It's still slow.
It's actually slower.
It's slower. Yeah, the lag is still every bit as bad, and we can still barely send a text or make a phone call. So now we've got a $300 a month satellite bill, and we've got a $350 a month phone bill for these giant hotspots that don't work. And I don't think I'm going to be keeping those.
So, folks,
don't move out to the sticks until you have internet.
And
internet first, then sign the lease.
Also, please donate, buy stuff from our store.
Or hit up Elon.
$1,000 worth.
Hit up Elon.
Hit up
We're good for it, Elon. We'll pay it back, I swear. Please, just give us this internet.
So if those of you of a believing persuasion, be kind enough to said the word to dude upstairs for us to.
And God.
And
so
God.
both Elon and God.
Now. He's powerful, but he ain't that powerful. All in all, it's been a rough experience, but I think on the other end of all of this, it'll be fine. We love this place. We just get these couple of things worked out, and we could probably stay here a while. You agree?
Yeah, if we don't get kicked out for asking for flushing toilets again. Which, once bitten, twice shy. We literally had to turn off the water in the back bathroom because the toilet was constantly running and not flushing. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go again.
But that was the saga.
I've got PTSD, and the P stands for potty.
Potty toilet stress disorder. Yes, indeed.
But other than that, I mean, at any given moment, we can see deer frolicking in our front yard, and our now official 1-year-old puppy service dog is able to frolic as well. And
along with
Max gets to go outside off leash, and he's thrilled about that. And
they enter and exit together. Most
it's really
of the time.
cute.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, so since she's black and he's orange, I'm like, all right, all the Halloween animals are outside. And then they come back together. All right, all the Halloween animals are back inside. And we may or may not work out a doggy door so they can go in and out the back. We're far enough out in the sticks, though, that doggy door might be inviting other critters, so we'll see how that works. And yeah, it's a nice place. It's pretty much.
We really like it. And
outside of the internet, it has everything we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
We just need the internet. So we're hoping that we'll be able to slowly upload this episode and catch y'all up. Sorry we're not live. We tried going live last night and got a server error on the side of Spreaker, and we're not sure what that was. So then we tried going, recording it and then uploading it from Spreaker, and it gave us a 10-minute timeout. And we're like, oh, well, good night, auld lang syne, blarty blarty. It's 9:00, and that was it.
Yeah,
we'd had enough.
We call it.
We called it.
Well, Melanie called it officially, but we called it. She's had enough. She done had
I
didn't blame her.
Pretty defeated. After everything we've been through, and finally thought, okay, we're gonna do this. We weren't able to go live Christmas, but we did the extravaganza, or Max did anyway, and really thought we were gonna be up and running. Really did, honest to goodness, and not so much. So that is where we are today.
Are we gonna?
Any other stuff you want to talk about?
Well, a lot happened in the interim between when we were last on and when we're on now. The thing that surprised me the most is that Daryl Hall sued John Oates.
Not just bad pool.
No. Well, no, there was reasons.
So what were the reasons?
Well, I don't know if you've been paying attention to this, but a lot of legacy artists, classic rock artists, have sold their catalogs to different companies.
Like a rock.
Yeah.
I'm in a commercial now.
I'm not just talking one song like that to Chevrolet. I'm talking their entire catalog to entertainment companies. For example, Bob Dylan sold his catalog because these things are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, so they give him a payment up front because the music has lasted so long and it'll be used in perpetuity in movies and ads and that kind of thing. Same thing with Aerosmith. Aerosmith sold all of their catalog to Universal Music, and worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So a lot of legacy acts are doing this kind of thing, and John Oates wanted to...
Wouldn't it be worth more to hold on to the rights yourself and get royalties?
That's Daryl Hall's stance, not John Oates's.
Oh.
He was trying to sell his share of their joint company.
What?
And yeah, without talking to Daryl Hall about it.
Oh.
And yeah, and they were already working on legally breaking up the act. But then he does this, and Daryl Hall, you know, I mean, they haven't been getting along for a while, and that happens. But he's that's just so it's all on hold. So he sued John Oates and put a restraining order on him, and so he can't really do anything with the catalog until both sides come to an agreement as to how they're going to get the music administered. It's huge business. I mean, the Who sold it for hundreds of millions. I mean, it's just gigantic. You know, the Stones haven't done it because Keith doesn't want to do it. That makes sense. He's Keith.
Yeah.
Well, because he knows, he knows he's going to live to 3,000
That's what I said.
anyway.
Him and Cockroaches are going to be the only thing left. I thought it was going to be him and Betty White, but now she checked out. So
yeah,
it's going to be him and Cockroaches.
He's 80 now. Believe it or not. Wow, 80 years old.
Looks every day.
Yeah, it doesn't look a day over 81.
Speaking of those checking out, we got some really sad news that a dear friend of ours who has been on our show passed away suddenly of a heart attack, and our prayers go out to family and loved ones of our friend Celeste. I haven't seen her for a long time because I haven't been back up to Seattle, but she'd been down to Vegas when we lived there and just kind of haven't seen anybody since we moved here. So my heart is just broken. We found out just before we started recording. I have been avoiding Facebook for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Obvious reasons. But if anybody is listening and you are friends with or know or love Celeste, we love her too. And it's really hard to learn about that.
Rest in paradise, friend.
One of the most intelligent, decent people I've ever known. She really had a heart, and I worked on a project with her for several years, and she was a neat lady, a really neat lady.
Yeah, she was. As in the showbiz realm, we several weeks ago lost one of the giants of television, Norman Lear, who took British sitcoms, turned them into American sitcoms, basically created some of the most classic American TV shows as a result.
Like what?
All in the Family. And all of the myriad remakes and spin-offs and all of that.
Ended up with the Jeffersons and a whole bunch.
Maude, Good Times, Archie Bunker's Place, and quite a few others. Also brought us Sanford and Son, which is one of my favorite shows. His production company brought us Different Strokes and The Facts of Life, and probably a lot of other shows that came and went. But, I mean, his legacy was amazing, and he was also an advocate of free speech. He founded the liberal group People for the American Way, and although I didn't agree with him politically all the time, I certainly respected and admired his stance on free speech because he stood up to the current left wing of our society just like a year ago and said, "You guys have gone too far." You know, it's just we gotta have it available for everybody. So he passed. Also, 2 comedy legends passed over the last few days. Firstly, Tommy Smothers. When I was growing up and until the day I die, my favorite comedy duo is not Martin and Lewis or Abbott and Costello. It's the
George and Gracie.
Or George and Gracie. It is the Smothers brothers.
They were so funny.
And not only were they very talented musicians and singers, they were funny. Dick could play a straight man like nobody's business, and Tommy just had this childlike innocent character.
I think my favorite was the foxes when he starts quacking. They didn't mind the quack 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 and the legs all hanging down. He starts quacking, and he gets Dick so mad that he stomps off stage. He goes, "You sit here and you quack." Standing there going, "Quack quack 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 quack." Hey,
they had
quack quack.
An immensely popular TV show on the CBS network in the 60s, but they did not hold back. They were political. I mean, Laugh-In at the same time was political, but these guys pushed it a little too uncomfortably for the CBS censors, along with having guests like Joan Baez and Bob Dylan and, you know.
Back in the olden days when liberals were anti-war.
Yeah. And so, yeah, the execs at CBS finally fired them. They didn't cancel the show. They literally fired Tom and Dick.
So how do you have the Smothers Brothers show without the Smothers Brothers?
You don't.
That was like Three's Company without... No, that's like Laverne and Shirley without Shirley.
Which happened. But anyway, yeah, so it lasted 2.5 seasons. You can still watch reruns of it, and I recommend, if you're not that familiar with the Smothers Brothers, just go on YouTube. They have like literally hundreds of their appearances over 60 years. They had retired several years ago, but I still think they're just funny. I mean, if ever I want to have a good laugh, it's those guys.
And the yo-yo.
And the Yo-Yo Man. He also did yo-yo. He did amazing tricks with the yo-yo.
Yeah.
Also, yesterday, we lost Shecky Green, comedy legend, mostly Las Vegas comedian who had appeared on Johnny Carson's show a number of times, and basically a comedy legend. He started in the 40s and continued until 2003, I think.
That's a heck of a career.
And then he stopped because he somehow developed stage fright, along with a lot of the excesses that come with the Las Vegas showbiz lifestyle, the drugs, the alcohol, and all that. He got back on stage, though, in 2009 and continued until last year. So he had a very long career, and he was highly regarded by generations of comics. So as a stand-up comic, I raise my hat to Shecky. I pray that his family and fans,
So we lost sitcoms and comics this week.
Yeah.
As well as the internet to enjoy them by.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't know about you, but I could use a couple of weird and wonderfuls. What do you think?
I think so, too.
Counterculture Wise is proud to present News of the Weird and Wonderful. Here are your hosts, Melanie Hope and Jim Monis.
Okay, this first one, the title is intriguing. So, the mystery of the lost space tomato has been solved. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station revealed a live stream Wednesday celebrating the space station's 25th anniversary that they finally found the missing fruit after initially blaming fellow astronaut Frank Rubio for its disappearance. They just randomly blamed an astronaut for stealing a tomato? NASA's Associated Administrator Bob Cabana asked the new crew near the end of the broadcast if they hid anything or lost anything that they were still looking for, to which several of the astronauts laughed. Well, we might have found something that someone had been looking for quite a while, said one of the astronauts with a smile. She continued, our good friend Frank Rubio, who headed home, has been blamed for quite a while for eating the tomato, but we can exonerate him. We found the tomato. Doesn't seem to me that the space station is that big of a place that you could hide. Okay.
All right.
The mystery of the lost tomato had been a months-long inside joke between astronauts on the International Space Station, which started after Rubio harvested Red Robin dwarf tomatoes for the space station's Veg 05 experiment. Red Robin has their own line of tomatoes?
I don't think it's affiliated with a restaurant. I don't know.
Well, their fries are fantastic, so it only makes sense that they'd make the best. Okay.
Fries out, and the burgers rock, too.
Following the tomato harvest in March, each astronaut received samples of the tomato harvest in a Ziploc bag. However, before Rubio could eat his portion, it reportedly floated away. The other astronauts did not believe it. The NASA astronaut reportedly first discussed the missing tomato during a live stream call on NASA television, where he noted that he spent so many hours looking for that thing, but ultimately came up empty-handed. I'm sure the desiccated tomato will show up at some point and vindicate me years in the future. He again mentioned the lost tomato in a news conference held after returning to Earth after more than a year in space. He said, per the outlet, that he had spent 18 to 20 hours of my own time looking for the missing tomato, but it was never discovered. The reality of the problem, the humidity up there is like 17%. It's probably desiccated to the point where you couldn't tell what it was, and somebody just threw away the bag. Hopefully, somebody will find it someday, a little shriveled thing. During the ISS crew's 25th anniversary stream, they noted that they all have on multiple occasions lost items in the space station. Luckily, most of them we found again near an air vent, maybe a couple of minutes, maybe a couple of hours later, but it is certainly one of the challenges that you really get to learn to cope with until you get here, one of the astronauts said. So, 8-month-old tomato.
Not yum. Something else Melanie doesn't really care for much is mushrooms. Here's a special mushroom that would make it even scarier for you to run.
Oh, dear.
A hissing mushroom might sound like something out of Super Mario World, but this rare toadstool wasn't made up by Nintendo. It's called Choriactis gayaster, but it goes by a few other names. Here in the U.S., it's likely known as the Texas star since it's only been found in Texas, not to mention over 6,000 miles away in Japan, where it grows on decaying oak trees. In 2021, it was even designated the official state mushroom of Texas.
Yeah.
It typically appears during cooler months and grows only on the decomposing cedar, elm tree stumps, and roots in the U.S. Oh, and yes, it hisses. The Texas star will open up into a leathery star of 4 to 8 points, says Angel Schatz with the Central Texas Mycology Society. That's when it starts to send off its spores, and sometimes you can hear an audible hiss.
I want to know why there's no pictures of it.
Mushrooms will shoot their spores when there's humidity and also when they feel the wind coming, because the spores will catch the wind and be carried off to another area where they have a possibility of colonizing and refruiting, she continued. A hazy cloud has been reported to be seen when spores are released from the plant.
Oh, it does look like a leather starfish, basically.
How cool. While the mushroom is undoubtedly rare, it can be pretty easy to spot in Central Texas if you know what to look for. Schatz said when out foraging in a green space, try to find cedar elm tree leaves littered on the ground. If you see kind of tiny little leaves with serrated edges, it looks kind of like a knife edge, you'll know that you're in cedar elm forest. Just look for stumps that are turning brown, she said. The Texas star was recently spotted for the first time this season at Inks Lake State Park, northwest of Austin, after previously being seen earlier this year in the winter. The mushroom got its other nickname, the Devil's Cigar, because before it splits into its star-shaped flower, it appears as a brown capsule sticking out of the ground, resembling a large cigar.
It looks more like a dirt egg to me, but okay.
Though with its leathery body and splitting open, it may remind you of a xenomorph egg from the Alien movie series.
Mm-hmm. That's what it looks like.
There's no need to be scared of the mushroom, as they are harmless, though it's never wise to go around touching any mushrooms you encounter. Despite its relative commonness in Central Texas, the star remains pretty rare. As reported by Fort Worth Botanic Garden, Botanical Research Institute of Texas research scientist Bob O'Cannon estimates that only several hundred people have ever seen it in person. Have even seen it in person. So few that I didn't get a photo on this article.
Yeah, that is weird that it didn't have a photo.
Have.
All right, some good news out of California. So you wouldn't expect this. In a classroom at Anderson Elementary on a recent Thursday, third graders lined up to have their pencils sharpened to a crisp point before beginning a cursive lesson.
Oh, what lesson?
Cursive. The students put graphite to paper, copying sample sentences like, "Do you want to jump into this pile of leaves?" Music played lightly in the background of the otherwise pin-drop silent room. Teacher Bertha Rubble said she hears chatter during other independent lessons like math, but focus reigns during cursive. They're very into it, she said. It's something new to them. I remember when I first learned cursive, I just felt so grown up.
I learned it in first grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was third for me, but I felt like such a grown-up. The scene is set to play out across California when a new law goes into effect in January mandating cursive instruction for all elementary school children in the state.
They did a good thing.
California. I'm really surprised. The words look more cooler than normal words. Third grader Nathan.
That's what a third grader would say.
Yep. While practicing the looping script, Nathan's favorite letters to write are capitals A, D, and Z. Z is fun.
Yeah.
More than a decade after many wrote the obituary for the handwriting style, because of widely adopted Common Core curriculum standards that made no mention of it, cursive is making a comeback. Now people can actually sign their name on these contracts that they make with the devil. New Hampshire passed its own cursive mandate this year, and Michigan legislatures pushed a bill that would strongly encourage schools to teach the skill. About half the states now have a law or state standard requiring cursive instruction, many of them passed in recent years.
I find it really hard to believe that they had to mandate this. This is just, it came as naturally as 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, Common Core
Yeah.
and pandering to the lowest of, you gotta dumb everybody down. But now they will be able to read historical documents like, the U.S. Constitution, and
Right.
letters from relatives. Occupational therapists argue it helps strengthen fine motor skills and aids comprehension for those with dyslexia. Interesting. As artificial intelligence becomes more popular, some see cursive and handwriting in general as a way to help authenticate student work. Some California teachers, like Robles, have always taught cursive, which is also included in state standards. I can't tell you how many of my older students ask me, like, we'll be in the middle of a math lesson, and like, ooh, can you teach me some cursive? And we'll just
Amazing.
draw letters on screen, and they've never seen it before. Well, that happened at Toastmasters a couple of times where somebody would write a prompt or, the winner of a contest or whatever, and the person reading it couldn't. That's happened in improv too, where we'll get a suggestion from the audience and they wrote it in cursive, and the person that was supposed to give the suggestion literally could not read it because it was in cursive.
Huh.
University of Southern California education professor Morgan Polikoff didn't think he was being that controversial when he penned a 2013 op-ed arguing that cursive doesn't matter.
What?
Then the hate mail started arriving. It will haunt me until the day I die, he said. Many of his critics accused him of contributing to the dumbing down of society. To enshrine his position, Polikoff had tank tops printed with the joined-up script saying cursive is dumb that he wears on beach vacations. He sounds like a winner. A decade later, his opinion hasn't wavered that if we're going to spend time on something, typing is a much more useful skill. Why can't you teach both? He's been persuaded, however, that it could be beneficial to teach kids because they get excited about it.
Then there's an example of some of the prettiest cursive I've ever seen from a grade schooler.
Yeah, entry into the 2023 Cursive is Cool contest. She writes, there are many reasons why I believe cursive is cool. First, although many people don't prefer cursive, it is beautiful and fun to write in. Additionally, it is convenient to write because you can write quickly but prettily. When I first taught myself in second grade, I knew I would love it forever. The second reason why I believe cursive is cool is because it relaxes my hand. Plain, old, boring strains and hurts my fingers. Okay, so I think she means plain, old, boring letters.
Yeah.
However, I love that you can write cursive effortlessly and comfortably. The third and final reason, this is actually a really good essay for a kid at her age.
Sixth grader, yeah.
Oh, okay. The third and final reason why I believe cursive is cool is because it catches the reader's attention.
It's supposed to be seeing. It looks like leading.
Okay. It looks like lean. Seeing beautiful letters on papers makes people wonder what is on it. That is why I use cursive on signs, posters, and so much more. She has a really fancy cursive.
Yeah, really
I think she's been
beautiful.
reading the Constitution. God bless her. In conclusion, I believe cursive is cool because it is efficient, it relaxes my hand, and captures the reader's attention. I hope you will be inspired to write cursive and believe it is cool, too. Sixth grader Michelena Lee's love of cursive began in kindergarten when the Tooth Fairy wrote her a beautiful note in swirly script. It turns out her mother can write exactly the same way.
Who thought?
She taught herself
Wait
to
a minute.
write...
Are you telling me? Never mind.
She taught herself to write similarly beginning in second grade, adopting an ornate style full of extra curly cues and loops. Yeah, it's very ornate. The penmanship won the Georgia 11-year-old an accolade for her grade in this year's Cursive is Cool contest put on by the Camping for Cursive, Campaign for Cursive, yeehaw, light the fire. Okay, Campaign for Cursive, a project of the American Handwriting Analysis Foundation. It's just a wonderful way to let your hand relax a bit. The Campaign for Cursive got its start in 2013 in response to the declining classroom instruction in the skill. Co-founder Sheila Lowe said, volunteers began letter writing campaigns in cursive so they couldn't read it to state politicians to encourage pro-cursive laws, and the group launched its contest for students in the U.S. and Canada. Very cool. My whole premise when I started this was, gee, if a kid can't be taught cursive, they're not going to have a signature. Over the years, people have shared horror stories of a cursive illiterate generation with her, including a land appraiser who had to fire a young man because he couldn't go to the courthouse and read old land transfer documents, and a family whose 15-year-old son couldn't sign his name at the passport counter. Some popular cursive curricula now ditch the characteristic slant altogether, encouraging an upright letter formation that's less intimidating to learn. Gone also are the endless worksheets requiring rote repetition of each letter. Suzanne Asherton, a national presenter with a company behind a curriculum called Handwriting Without Tears, said the original slanted style developed in the era of quill pens to prevent ink from splattering. Are children using quill pens? No.
No.
Cork Silver, the California Assemblywoman, keeps a box of handwritten notes from constituents thanking her for promoting cursive. In online polls her office posted seeking opinions on the bill, she estimated 9 out of 10 people said it was great and that the cursive never should have gone away. The others said a variation of the theme of, you're just an old boomer, there's no reason for this. She's not old enough to be a boomer, people. 9-year-old Charlotte Robinson in British Columbia, Canada, said she loves the act of writing in cursive. If your pencil is sharp, it just feels so good against the paper. She entered this year's Cursive is Cool contest and won Most Creative Response for 3rd grade. Cursive feels like the ocean waves. It is like a calm breeze blowing in my hair, she wrote. When I write my name in cursive, it feels like I'm on a puffy cloud. That is adorable. Hers isn't as pretty as the other ones, though.
No.
But that is like a poem.
Killis is amazing.
Yeah. Some of the conversation's interesting. Imagine being a police officer and unable to read notes the criminals wrote to themselves or others. Or do such folks always have access to laptops? Or imagine you're a reporter and your tape recorder stops working. What do? Print as you conduct the interview? Also, many times I've seen facsimiles of... Facsimiles? Yeah, thank you. Of letters contained in historical books. Do we expect that all those old books will be reprinted to accommodate the script ignorant? Cursive is also included in older document pieces we find in museums. For those doing post-grad research in any number of subjects, ignorance of script will be a real impediment. Mm-hmm. It's a failure of imagination to say children are never going to need mastery of cursive. I can only guess some teachers must think their pupils will live the same circumstances, same circumscribed, what is wrong with my eyeball, lives they apparently do. Mm-hmm. A lot of feedback on this. A lot of people are very much, California, need I say more? Oh, cursive and good penmanship is essential for democracy. Here's a case in point. Write-in ballots require a signature. Well, do they? Do they now? Voters were given 72 hours to cure their votes with illegible signatures. As a consequence, the Georgia legislature now has a legislation that disallows curing votes with illegible signatures. Wow.
I find it sad that it even went away for a few minutes. I mean, it's in order to understand our past, we need to be able to read our past. Mm-hmm. You know.
But she has a point. You know, you want your vote to count, then learn cursive and take pride in legible writing, especially your signature.
Well, Well, my signature's not
Mr. J
legible.
Squiggle M Squiggle.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, this is a great story, but Melanie is right. She's the one who found this article. The
Good news, stupid headline.
yeah, that's
You got to read the headline because it's so dumb.
anti-aging drug for dogs from San Francisco firm moves closer to gaining FDA approval. So, if you're a dog who works at a San Francisco firm, you're in luck. Your life is about to be extended.
So dumb.
By the way, this is Fox News. This isn't some run-of-the-mill
Right.
small-town rag.
Podunk, yeah.
A drug that could potentially extend the life of large breed dogs is closer to being approved by the FDA. That's according to an announcement last week by the San Francisco biotech company Loyal, the company behind the drug. Currently, there are no FDA-approved or conditionally approved animal drugs for this purpose. There are 25 million large breed dogs in the U.S. alone. That's 25 million dogs who can help live longer and with better quality of life. Celine Halioa, CEO and founder of Loyal, said in a statement sent to Fox News Digital. The company claims the drug LOY001, Loy for Loyal, 001, may help slow down age-related processes for dogs that are 40 pounds or more.
Ooh, Sadie just comes in under that.
Sadie, you're gonna live a longer life now. Yay. Medication works by interacting with a hormone called IGF-1 that accelerates the aging process. It is designed to prevent age-related canine diseases, rather than waiting until symptoms appear, according to a spokesperson for Loyal. Loyal's approach represents a different paradigm, using our understanding of the underlying mechanisms of aging to reduce the risk of these diseases in the first place, the company stated in a release sent to Fox News Digital. Last week, the drug maker announced that LOY001 has cleared early hurdles with the FDA, which signaled that the data so far shows the drug's potential effectiveness. More milestones must be met before the drug is fully approved and can hit the market, however. These include the completion of a large clinical trial and a review of safety and manufacturing data. Thus far, the 4-year process has included interventional studies of LOY1 in an FDA-accepted model of canine aging and an observational no-drug study of 451 dogs, according to Loyal's website. Today's milestone is a crucial part of Loyal's application for conditional approval, the company said in the news release. If it means the FDA agrees LOY1 has a reasonable expectation of effectiveness, the statement continued. Once the FDA approves Loyal's manufacturing and safety data packages, Loyal can market the drug for lifespan extension in the target canine population. Conditional approval lasts for up to 5 years, during which time Loyal will collect the remaining effectiveness data and apply for full approval. This kind of thing is why drugs are so expensive in the first place. They've got to recoup their losses. The average dog's lifespan is about 10 to 13 years, with larger breeds aging faster and having an even shorter life expectancy, according to veterinarians who spoke with Fox News. Some believe that is due to selective breeding, which can enhance a dog's size and development. Dr. Ivana
She doesn't have enough vowels in her name. So
a veterinarian with the Texas-based foundation veterinarians.org told Fox News Digital that body size and growth rate are key factors affecting a dog's longevity. The growth-producing hormone IGF-1, believed to play a role in accelerating aging and reducing lifespan, has been found at much higher levels in large dogs compared to small breed dogs. The new experimental drug targets this growth-promoting hormone to reduce its levels. And it just goes on to say the same thing in a few different ways.
that's so cool.
But it's going to take several years. But if this is successful, then they deserve the success, and our dogs will be able to live longer. The bigger dogs will be able to live longer. So that's wonderful.
So right now, it's administered by an injection every 3 to 6 months, but they're working on a daily pill.
Nice.
And then there's lots of discussion about bad dog food at the bottom. Okay. Now see, that's why we can't have nice things. Have we got some doozies today?
Wow.
So
yes, we do.
The first one, I labeled it News of the Weird and Ironic. Let's see if it comes up.
Animal justice.
A bear in Poland's Carpathian Mountains mauled an eco-activist who was trying to prove the animal's den was abandoned due to logging. Whoopsie. The man, of German nationality, was airlifted to hospital following the attack and was said to be in serious but stable condition. The activist had traveled to the bear's den along with other activists from the Wild Carpathians Initiative to check if the area had been affected by logging. The pair had expected the lair. I feel like I'm reading a Dr. Seuss book. The pair had expected the lair to be empty, but the animal was there. I know.
It was a hairy bear.
It was a scary bear.
So I unpacked my adjectives.
Yeah, the animal pursued them through the woods. The activist stumbled and fell before being mauled. Well, you know what they say. You don't have to run faster than the bear. You just have to run faster than the other guy.
Right.
Footage of the bear emerging to attack was captured by a camera set up to monitor the lair. It was shared online by a spokesperson for the Polish Forestry Service, who described the incident as an irony of fate. Pseudo-ecologists were attacking foresters, mountain rescue, and policemen, and now these people are saving their lives, he said. Ooh, ouch.
Zing.
The Wild Carpathians Initiative admitted their activists shouldn't have disturbed the mammal, should not have disturbed the mammal, which was getting ready for hibernation in the, Bieszczady Mountains, which form part of the outer eastern Carpathians. The spokesman said that there had been an attack on a forester in the same location last year. Despite that, the Forestry Service failed to prevent further deforestation there. Okay. The Wild Carpathians Initiative is described as a community that protects the wildlife of the Carpathians. Well, that would definitely make sense, calling themselves that, which is home to brown bears, wolves, and Eurasian lynxes. Very specific type of lynx.
All right, so because you want me to read the third one, do you want me to go ahead and read that now, or you want to read the second one and I'll read the third one? You know, I'm easy either way.
Okay, well, the middle one is going to be the one that gets us in trouble with the censorious screw tubes, but
Yeah.
I don't really care.
Truth is truth.
Yeah. So keep in mind, we are just wearing this. This is from the Epoch Times, and this is based on a study.
We didn't write this.
A
We didn't
peer
write
reviewed.
this.
So we're just sharing the information. We are making no judgments, just sharing the information. People who wore protective masks were found to be more likely to contract than those who didn't, according to a recent study. The peer-reviewed study published in the Journal of Epidemiology and Infection on November 13 analyzed mask use among the 3,209 individuals from Norway. Researchers followed them for 17 days and then asked the participants about their use of masks. The team found that there was a higher incidence of testing positive for among people who used masks more frequently. I want to play the Called It. Called It! Among individuals who never or almost never wore masks, 8.6% tested positive. That rose to 15% among participants who sometimes used masks, and to 15.1% among those who almost always or always wore them. Adjusting for factors such as the status, these are all words we're not allowed to say on screw tubes, study determined that individuals who sometimes or often wore masks had a 33% higher incidence of compared to those who never or almost never wore masks. This jumped to 40% among people who almost always or always wore them. However, adjusting for, quote, differences in baseline risk over time, the risk of wearing masks turned out to be less pronounced with only a 4% higher incidence of infection. Only 4%. Higher. So, wear your face diaper so that you can have a 4% lower chance of...
Yeah, whatever.
The results contradict earlier randomized and non-randomized studies of effectiveness, and this kind of goes... I feel like they're waffling.
Well, they are the press, after all.
That is true. Most of these studies reported that wearing a face mask reduces the risk of... Some observational studies have reported many-fold reductions, while one community-based randomized... I'm randomizing my words now. Randomized Oh, good gravy. Okay, bears on trails, test on trials. There we go. Failed to demonstrate a strategically significant reduction in infection risk, and one cluster randomized community trial found only modest reduction. It sounds to me like this is totally inconclusive. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah. And they talk a little bit about mandates, blah, blah, who did better, all the stuff we basically know. Basically know all of it, but interesting study. I feel like they backed out of it.
Here's another interesting study. 2 farmers have lifted the lid on how they managed to catch a man having sex with one of their cows.
I'm sorry, what?
2 farmers have lifted the lid on how they managed to catch a man having sex with one of their cows. Ian and Tracy Farwell.
Is this for real?
Yeah. Ian and Tracy Farwell have spoken out about the detailed operation they were forced to carry out to catch the man, later revealed to be 25-year-old Liam Brown, after suspecting something sinister was taking place in their cow shed under the cover of darkness. They had noticed their calves were regularly in a state of distress in the mornings at their farm in Burton near Christchurch, Dorset.
How would they even feel it? I mean,
It's not about them feeling it.
Have you seen the size of a bull? I mean,
Yeah.
they probably wouldn't even know he was there.
Well, they seemed to think he was there because he got very upset. Over a 6-month period, they discovered strange items, including trousers, a cow rope, and surgical gloves littered around their farm. Of course, they actually caught a photo of the guy walking down the street.
That's the dude?
That's the dude.
He's not a bad-looking guy. Why would
That's
he need
the beef boinker right there.
Why would he have to do steak aside? What?
I don't know.
Beef boinker.
Yeah, I know. They told Mail Online they had noticed their calves getting ill and had set out to work out what was causing it. Trips to the vets were carried out to find out what the matter was. Ian said they thought someone was going into the pens around 3 to 4 times a week, but they were unsure what they were doing in there. They felt that catching the person was the only way to stop the nefarious activity. One night, a member of the family heard distressed noises coming from the shed and used his phone to check CCTV covering parts of the farm. The family took an organized approach, Ian told Mail Online. He could see someone was in the cow shed, so we gave each other 5 minutes to get into position and turn the lights on. When the lights went on, we saw this man behind a calf with his trousers down. It was obvious what he was doing.
Ew.
After being caught in the act, Brown tried to flee. Ian said he jumped a fence and tried to leg it, but some cows trampled him.
No good.
And we surrounded him. When we got closer, we recognized it was Liam, and he was crying and saying he'd effed up. I guess, specifically speaking, you would have to F up if you were, I mean...
Well,
it would depend on whether the cow was standing or...
We're talking calves, though, so they're baby cows.
Okay, well, maybe they're ground level. I don't know. Brown was barred from owning cattle for 10 years, I would hope, at Bournemouth Crown Court, given a 36-month community order and told to do 15 hours of unpaid work.
Sounds like
he was
doing
also
a lot more
ordered to
than
pay
that.
£600 in compensation. Summarizing, Judge Keith Cutler said, "This is a very alarming, bizarre, and worrying case. A man of your age getting involved in his behavior, I'm sure you look back on it with shame and embarrassment. Your actions did cause unnecessary suffering to this animal. I hope that nothing like this will ever happen again."
I can't believe that's a real story. I mean, I literally cannot believe that's a real story.
Well, I don't know. Look, see if there's another source, because this is some rag out of Britain. You know, see if there's another UK journal that has the story. We only report the truth. If we don't, we retract
We admit it.
Yeah.
All right, well, this isn't really being reported on, but, you know, Alex Jones has been right more than he's been wrong. This was actually originally reported in Sputnik.
Okay.
So I don't know how much you want to trust that either.
Yeah.
E-commerce giant Amazon touts the convenience and wide selection it offers to customers, but beneath the surface of its carefully cultivated image was secret technology that inflated prices across the web, according to the FTC.
No, this is the Amazon from whom we got each other
Kindle
Fires
for Christmas.
for Christmas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They used an algorithm called Project Nessie to maximize profits to the detriment of consumers. Wow, and this does come from the U.S. FTC. A lawsuit filed by the FTC against the company this week, so that's according to the unredacted claims. The secret algorithm, Project Nessie, was used to inflate prices of goods offered on Amazon when price hikes were likely to be replicated by other online retailers. The technology used between 2015 and 2019. What was going on then? Is thought to have generated over $1 billion in excess profits for the retailer. In addition, the regulatory agency argued that customers spent far more than that when the money lost from higher prices elsewhere is considered. The sole purpose of Project Nessie was to further hike consumer prices by manipulating other online stores into raising their prices. Ooh, that sounds bad. The additional profit Amazon attributed to Project Nessie is money that Amazon shoppers would have kept in their pockets if not for Amazon's use of Project Nessie. Story we don't have in here that also just was revealed is that when you went on to Chrome in incognito mode, they were tracking your butt anyway. They got caught.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So all these big companies that benefited from we're doing some pretty nefarious things. Not quite, cowboy boinking, but
Ride 'em, cowboy.
oh, lordy. Okay, there's a few other stories here that are a little bit old, so I don't want to go in there, but I think you should read. Well, it's only one story, but it is a Florida man. So do you want to play the song?
We'll do the quick version.
Okay.
Ever have a chance to feel so stupid, lacking a brain?
Cha-cha-cha.
Here's a man like this.
Maybe even sing cha-cha-cha.
All the world is bound to be. Here come the Florida man. Yeah.
Here come the Florida man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
This sounds like something you would do.
Chances are it would be something I would do. Didn't we report on this earlier? Anyway.
No.
All right. A Florida man was cited this week for driving a truck that was painted similar to the look of Border Patrol vehicles, but read Booty Patrol on the back, authorities said. The driver was pulled over Sunday and cited under a law that deals with prohibited vehicle lights that resemble those of law enforcement or other officials, the DeSoto County Sheriff's Office said Tuesday.
Well, it does look official, like very much.
It actually does. On Monday, the Sheriff's Office posted photos of the truck on social media to raise awareness and inspire other people to do the same. And to raise awareness about people impersonating authorities. Photos of the white truck showed it had Booty Patrol on the back and side panels with a diagonal green stripe down the side of the cab. The truck had red and blue lights and had been seen in several counties, the Sheriff's Office said.
I wonder what he was doing.
Did
he actually inspect booties?
The driver was not identified in the statement that the Sheriff's Office posted on social media. I think it's funny. Relatively harmless. But yeah, you don't want to go impersonating law enforcement. It's not smart.
We completely skipped over the TDSer of the week, and we got a couple.
Yeah.
Supreme Court of Colorado. And
yeah. So I'm going to get
that
the most
lady in
up-to-date
Maine is blocking my vote.
I'm going to look up the latest on this as we are recording this.
Well, I don't think
Colorado
it'll get past the actual Supreme Court, but they have decided that they don't want you to be able to vote for the candidate of your choice.
I think you should be able to vote for somebody who's in chains and on death row if that's who you want to vote for.
Hello, Mandela.
So
I just it kind of speaks to how absolutely terrified they are of losing because they know that they're losing.
Yeah. So Trump is going to be appealing the Colorado and Maine decisions. Okay, Trump is back on the ballot in Colorado while state Republicans appeal ban to Supreme Court. So the Colorado Republican Party, you can look up Maine while I'm doing this. Colorado Republican Party on Wednesday appealed that the state's Supreme Court decision that found former President Donald Trump is ineligible for the presidency, the potential first step to a showdown at the nation's highest court over the meaning of a 155-year-old constitutional provision that bans from office those who engaged in insurrection.
Okay, but
Before
he
you
hasn't even-
start, insurrection means you overthrow the government. Why would you overthrow the government that you are
that you are the
head of?
president of. Yeah, that makes no sense at all.
And by the way, I am not necessarily voting for Trump in 24. I'm just saying I think people should be able to vote for whoever they want. And if that's what the people of Colorado or the people of Maine or the people of whatever state here want as the lead in the Republican Party, that's who they should be able to vote for.
You've got to hear what the CNN summarizer, powered by apparently AI, says. Maine's Secretary of State, Shenna Bellows, has disqualified former President Donald Trump from appearing on the state's primary ballot under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution due to his role in the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. The decision is expected to be appealed by the Trump campaign. Maine courts have less than a month to decide whether Trump should be on the state's ballot, but experts say it will ultimately be up to the U.S. Supreme Court. The decision is a significant victory for Trump's critics, who argue that the 14th Amendment was designed to protect the country from anti-democratic insurrectionists. Okay, 2 problems. 1, he hasn't even been charged with insurrection. Hasn't even been, not only not just indicted, not even charged.
He hasn't been charged.
Nope.
I don't
Everything
keep
they've
up
done
with this
are
as much as Melanie
business
does, I must
dealings,
admit.
taxes, they're just nickel and diming him to damn death. They're just litigizing the crap out of him. They're calling it lawfare instead of warfare. But no, he has not been indicted, nor has he even been charged with insurrection. And he can't be because, first of all, a lot has come out that this was planned and not by him. This was executed by several FBI informants. And now that footage, because they had to withhold a whole lot of footage to keep people in the dark. Now that footage is coming out of the Capitol Police attacking the protesters and goading them into that. I mean, there was no surge on the backside where it got really bad. And on the front side, they were just let in and given a tour, and all that's on video. They literally unlocked doors for them and helped them in. Crazy horn-wearing guys said a prayer. Cops were high-fiving them and shaking their hands. They stayed between the velvet ropes. I mean, for God's sake, it was ridiculous. On the other side, where it got a little bit out of control, it got a lot of it out of control. It started with them behind the barriers, and they were shooting mortars into the crowd. They were gassing the crowd. They were firing rubber bullets on the crowd. And when the surge actually happened, it was when they shoved a little old lady down the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when people said, this is stupid. We're not doing this anymore. And that's when things got ugly. But that footage has been hidden. And what's really funny is a lot of us, we were watching it live. So we saw it and then it just disappeared. And you couldn't talk about it. And anybody who did was censored and, called an insurrectionist. And so now we have literal political prisoners, people who have not gotten their speedy trial, people who are in isolation and are treated with worse than Gitmo, people whose lives have been completely ruined. We're sending people to jail who weren't even on the premises, weren't even there.
Right.
And not a single one of them, not one, has been charged with insurrection. It's all, trespassing, a bunch of other stupid crap. And yeah, a lot of them are pleading out because what are you supposed to do? Rot in hell for the rest of your life because you were let into a building that you paid for? This is ridiculous. I hope Trump gets in there and clears house. And I'm telling you, if they do manage to take Trump out, either they, get him off the ballots or they actually kill him, which I think is what is going to have to happen. We're going to unleash Vivek on them. And they're going to really, really wish Trump was back. Because I think Vivek is going to go scorched earth. Mm-hmm. If he means what he says.
I have reason to trust him. He seems trustworthy for a politician.
Well, he's the only one who defended him and said this is ridiculous. And they did threaten I will give them credit. RNC did threaten to say, fine, we just won't have primaries. We'll go straight to, and
Go to caucuses.
caucus. Yeah. Yeah, screw you. I mean, this is ridiculous. You can't
I
just
participated in
decide.
a caucus before for the Democrats back in the 90s.
Really?
Yeah.
What is that like?
It's really actually pretty cool because you feel like you have more of a say in the process rather than just casting a vote. It seems to just add meaning. I don't know if it I mean, for the general election, you certainly want to have you cast your vote, but helping to choose the leader, the people you want, you can actually discuss it with other people and persuade them to change their vote one way or the other. Do you think people actually do change their votes during those I've seen it happen.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like and yes, sometimes if I remember correctly, it's a bit faulty. This is back in Federal Way in the 90s, but it was who was the most electable more than who we thought would best represent us, which was sad. It wound up being John Kerry, and John Kerry lost. John Kerry got smacked by George W. Bush, at least in our state, Washington. So, and I don't think either one of them would have been an excellent choice. But at the time, I thought Kerry would be a better choice. Hard to say anymore. Doesn't matter. But yeah, caucusing is it's interesting. If you ever have a chance to do it, if we ever go to a caucus system in the state, which is highly unlikely, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
I would be interested in participating in that. I actually tried to volunteer to work the election, and that was in Nevada, though.
Yeah.
And I guess they don't like it when you are registered as independent. They didn't even call back.
Yeah. I tend to go third party, but I don't really want to talk about it much right now. Anyway, but yeah, I wouldn't, if they could just go to caucusing and ignore the whole process, which I think is valid because they're,
Well, this main woman is a piece of work. She considers the Electoral College white supremacy. And of course, she's a middle-aged white broad.
Of course.
I'm telling you, bitches be crazy. There is nothing more dangerous
than a liberal
white woman.
Person,
they're the worst. Absolutely the worst. Okie dokie. So that is our
Now,
TDSer of the week.
Okay,
we need a
now-
sounder for that at some
Now we
point.
go to Wonderfuller. We've got
Wonderfuller.
one is a follow-up on a story we did, and then one to wrap it up that I know will get Melanie kind of, I don't know,
Oh, boy.
maybe emotional.
You always make me do this. Okay, well, hold on.
You can do whichever one you want.
Here on Counterculture Wise, we may rant, we may rave, but most of all, we go against the current culture because we believe, to the core of our beings, that humans are good and the world is an amazing and beautiful place. At the beginning of our show, we give you news of the weird and wonderful, but that is just the tip of the magnificent iceberg that is our world. We now present news of the Wonderfuller. I remember this story.
Yay! This is a continuation of a story we shared a year or two ago. In 2016, Jamal Hinton got a text from an unknown number. Thanksgiving dinner is at my house on November 24th at 3 o'clock. Confused, he asked who the texter was. Your grandma, the mystery messenger replied. Hinton, then a teen, asked for a picture, and upon seeing a white woman who was not his grandma, he texted a photo of himself back. You not my grandma, wrote Hinton, who is black. Sorry. Can I still get a plate, though? In what has become known as one of the most wholesome viral moments on social media, the grandmother replied, Of course you can. That's what grandmas do. They feed everyone.
I would so have said the same thing.
Hinton screenshot the text exchange and it received widespread attention online.
And she's not even an old grandma. She's
No,
probably
she's
45, 50
Yeah, she's in her
tops.
40s, early 50s maybe. He took her up on her offer and drove from Tempe, Arizona to Mesa to celebrate with her and her family.
Well, thank God they were texting from the same area code.
Yeah. And he's celebrated with them every year since.
Aww.
Her name is Wanda Dench, and her accidental invitation to Thanksgiving dinner 8 years ago led to a years-long tradition between her and Hinton and a now classic holiday story online. From the viral text, Hinton grew a social media following and has shared updates about his relationship with Dench over the years. Some updates are happy. Hinton started dating a woman named Michaela, whom Dench welcomed to Thanksgiving dinner too. Some are sad. Dench's husband died from COVID-19 in 2020.
No.
Still, they got together that year in a smaller gathering to honor Lonnie. In 2023, Hinton announced on Thanksgiving that he and Dench had gone from family to business partners, launching an alkaline black water called Black MP, which is, I guess, some energy drink. I don't know. And they don't just hang out on Thanksgiving. He shared photos of them at events and dinners together at all times of the year. This year, like the past 7, Hinton took to social media to update followers about his and Dench's holiday plans, which may include other people. To celebrate our 8th Thanksgiving together, yes, 8, we're partnering with Airbnb this year to host a couple extra seats at our table, he wrote on Instagram. Booking for our favorite holiday tradition opens November 14th at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, the link in our bios. Join us. For just $16, that's a bargain, Hinton and Dench are offering a stay with them
That's
at
a
Prescott Halley
steal.
home on Thanksgiving. Some may recognize this from our viral text mishap that led to our first Thanksgiving together back in 2016. The description on the Airbnb listing reads, and 8 years later, we're practically family. To commemorate our lasting friendship, we're excited to become Airbnb hosts and welcome new guests into our holiday tradition, creating meaningful connections in the process. Someone has already scored the stay with the pair. Hinton and Dench became family over a mistake, and it seems he has a magnet for accidental texts. This year, he shared a screenshot of someone mistakenly texting him, thinking he was their father. Thanksgiving around the corner, and I'm still receiving texts from a random number, he shared on X. CBS has reached out to Hinton, Airbnb, and Black MP for more information and is awaiting response. So that's
So I'm on his Instagram right now, and he is still with that girl.
fantastic. Congratulations, you guys. Keep
And then
it up.
there's this year's picture of him and the grandma to celebrate the 8th Thanksgiving together. Yes, 8, we're partnering with Airbnb this year, blah, blah, blah. Aww. This is so heartwarming.
The next one's kind of heartbreaking.
Okay, yeah, you love doing this to me.
Every week.
You're too good at that.
I'm way too good at it.
Alrighty, here we go. Get the Kleenex, people. In 2008, Chris Armstrong was driving between her 2 jobs when she got a call and the caller asked her to pull over. Then came news that would change the then 23-year-old's life forever. Her husband, Brandon Smith, had been in a car crash. They were unable to tell me if he was alive or not. The Texas resident, of course, there's somebody from Texas. By the time they called me, it had already been like 7 hours since the accident. The 2 had married just 2 years earlier when they were both 21, just babies. High school sweethearts, the 2 met when she was 16 and he was 15. She knew she wanted a family, and so did he. They were so cute.
They were a cute couple, very.
But that plan had abruptly changed. Now doctors were trying to save his life, and by the time she arrived at the hospital, he had fallen into a coma. When he woke up 2 months later,
Yeesh.
the Brandon she knew was gone. He now needed constant care. When someone has a severe traumatic brain injury in a big way, you lose that person, but you gain somebody new, she said. And it took me a long time to realize that. She turned to God and asked for guidance. She still wanted a family, but it would be impossible to have that with Brandon. It would be one of the hardest decisions she's ever made. So he must have, regressed or...
Yeah.
I had made vows that I would be with him in sickness and health, and I took that very seriously, Armstrong said. I didn't stay married to him, but I wanted to take care of him. It broke her heart into a million pieces as she began the process of becoming his legal guardian by divorcing him. I wonder where his family is. But she knew she was the best person to take care of him, so she showed the court by doing the things she'd always done. I took him to appointments, I advocated for him, I visited him almost daily, I took care of financial issues and managed all of his health care, his Medicaid, his Medicare, all of that. At one of the final hearings, the judge asked her a specific question. She asked me, "What will you do if you have a family someday? Will we be able to take care of Brandon, and what will happen then?" She said I told her nothing is going to change. And nothing did change, not even when she met James Armstrong in 2014, then a single father with a young child. The first thing she told him about was Brandon. "I have a former husband that I take care of, and he's part of my life, and I realize that's a lot. That is a lot to lay on somebody." She recalled telling him, "But if you're interested in dating me, that comes with the territory." It didn't bother me at all, James said. It intrigued me more because I knew that Chris had a good heart. He's a better man than most. When Brandon and James met for the first time, Chris recalled Brandon asking James if he wanted to grab a beer. That
Great.
sparked hope for their budding relationship. "Of course, that made me happy," she said. "Brandon being at peace and being okay with being part of our family the way it is super important." They've had 2 more kids.
Mm-hmm.
A year later, Chris and James were married, and Brandon had a new protector. More than a decade after his accident, the love for Brandon has only grown with the couple's young children, who delight in the time spent with their Uncle Brandon. "They love to snuggle with him on the couch when he's hanging out," said Armstrong. "There's a lot of love, a lot of love. It's an unconditional love that other people have been moved by." When Armstrong first started sharing their family story on TikTok, they went viral, generating millions of views. "We've been living out the story, this kind of unique family situation for about 15 years, she said. "And I found that when I meet people, when I share my story and they share their stories, it's a way to connect. It's a way to share hope." Brandon's world got very small after his brain injury, and it's sort of gotten bigger again. So he is, you can tell by the picture that, yeah, he is not all the way, poor guy. He's in a wheelchair. He's very...
And his hands are, he probably...
Yeah, his hands are, yeah. But they look happy.
Yeah.
They look happy. That's so cool. Well, folks, that rounds out our non-live podcast. Pray to the internet gods that I'm able to upload this before running out of data, because apparently we've used 75% of our data in 1 week.
How do you do that?
I don't even know how this data thing works. So they told
yeah.
us at the phone store that 100 gigs each would be more than enough, and this is telling me that 150 gigs isn't even enough for 2 weeks, so I'm not sure how this works. Anyways, pray to any deities that we find a way to make this go forward, and, anybody has a beat on Elon, send him our love and have him send us a satellite.
And go on... Yeah, have him go to our website and buy all kinds of stuff.
There you go. Buy us out. Buy our crap. Or you can just donate directly. We have no shame. We also are asking for prayers for our friend and her family, as well as Jim's job. We're not sure what's going to happen going forward, so we will pray for you.
I'm preparing for any eventuality, and I'm okay with it.
And we were able to at least pay rent through February, so at least we've got that going for us right now, and everything else is just kind of on hold. So keep the car, keep the phone, just feed the pets, all the things. Oh my goodness, this is a mess, but this too shall pass.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, folks, thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you again soon. Once again, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Counterculture-Wise is a Stormcat production.
Thank you for joining our growing family of listeners. All links from the show are available on our website, counterculturewise.com. Find our archives on any of your favorite podcast hosts.
We engage in satire, commentary, and generally laugh at the ridiculousness of our crumbling society. Our only medical or financial advice is to not follow any financial or medical advice given by podcasters.
Our animations, interviews, Holy Crap segment, and other videos are put out on BitChute and Rumble, and only in part on YouTube because they hate free speech.
Our show is entirely funded by listeners like you. Visit our ever-expanding merch store or our Subscribe Star, where you can get outtakes, extra videos, and sneak peeks.
If you would like to be a guest on our program, feel free to contact us via our website. Just click on the link at the top that says, "Be a guest on our show."
For more fun and cat pics, please visit our Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. For complaints about our show, please fill out the ID10T form on our website, and we will give it the attention it deserves.
Meanwhile, no matter how cruel the world may be around you, always remember the importance of kindness. Be kind to each other, be kind to animals, and be kind to yourself. See you next week.